Hi, I'm Liam, and for those of you who don't know me, I'm a giant fucking dork. If you've seen my several Weezer-related videos, then that fact should be obvious to you, but while yes, I do love Weezer, there is no fandom more significant in my life than I'm truly a lifelong Star Wars fan, and I can vividly remember the first time I watched Episode 6 and I saw Luke standing above the Sarlacc pit and he ignited his lightsaber and it was fucking green. I have favored green lightsabers ever since. While the original trilogy was one of those things that was always there for as long as I can remember, the prequel trilogy was actually coming out while I was growing up, and my parents even took me out of school to go see a matinee of Episode 3 on opening day. Those 3 films were very important to me as a child, and even growing up have still been important to me, and the worlds and the lore that George Lucas created with those films I still think is fantastic. I know there are many prequel haters out there, and if that's you and you feel that way, that's totally valid. The original trilogy will always be there for you to enjoy, and you know what? It's fantasy. It's all made up. So if you don't want something to be so, then you don't have to let it ruin Star Wars for you, because at the end of the day, it's all fucking made up. As for me, I like what these films brought into the canon and the groundwork they set for Dave Filoni and Genndy Tartakovsky, I hope I'm pronouncing that all right, to build upon and, do their own projects in the way of the Clone Wars and Bad Batch and Rebels and so on. So yes, I personally do think the prequels were very important to the history of Star Wars. Let's talk about some history. In 2014, I was in grade 11, which here in Quebec is the end of high school, which means I was facing the end of my high school career and the uncertainty of the post-adolescent world. If my date checking is right, which I think it is, on November 24th of that year, I had to go into school to get my graduating pictures taken, my headshots taken. My dad drove me in that day because I was just there to get my picture taken. And when I got back to the car, he said, "I have something to show you." It was a 90-second teaser for a new Star Wars movie. This trailer reduced me to nothing but raw, crystallized emotion. It had everything that felt Star Wars to me. It had this endless desert of vast possibility, being interrupted by the face of a hopeful hero looking to better their destiny. It had the music, it had the speeders, it had the X-Wings, it had crazy-ass lightsabers with little lightsaber hilts. It had the fucking Millennium Falcon dodging X-Wings and shit, and goddammit, it felt like Star Wars. As the hype towards this film built, my friends and I would constantly discuss theories and ideas and ways that Legends lore could be brought in, or even ways that they could expand upon the already existing stories and go into different, take influence from different things, and it was very exciting for all of us. And that excitement was real, it was true, and that, for me, didn't really change when The Force Awakens came out. I remember running into my friends on opening day. They had seen the show right before mine, and they were very excited about what they had just seen. And we were all very excited to talk about it, and believe me, we did talk about it a lot afterwards. And now looking back, as far as I'm concerned, The Force Awakens is the sequel trilogy film that holds up the best. It's clear that it was meant to be somewhat of a reboot of A New Hope in many ways. You have the orphaned young subject, Rey, living on a desert planet, Jakku, who comes across a droid, BB-8, who's holding valuable information for Rebellion, the Resistance, that will help them to destroy a massive space station capable of destroying planets, Starkiller Base. She's guided by an older mentor who she later sees die at the hands of the villain, Han Solo and Kylo Ren respectively, and the Resistance are able to destroy a space station and live to fight another day. Sound familiar? Now, while the film did share many similarities in terms of plot, J.J. Abrams was able to introduce interesting characters like Finn and Rey and Kylo, Captain Phasma, Snoke, Maz Kanata, among many others. This film set up a foundation for these characters to grow, and it gave us a reason to want more. How strong could Rey become now that she's discovered her ability to use the Force? Would Finn discover abilities of his own? Will Kylo Ren delve further into his hatred and his lust for power and fall deeper into the dark side, or can he maybe be redeemed? How much of a threat will Captain Phasma become after she's been embarrassed by the Resistance in Episode 7? Who is Snoke? What are his plans? There were already so many questions, but then they left us with the mother of all cliffhangers, Rey finding mother-loving Luke Skywalker, living alone on Ahch-To, and reaching her hand out to hand him his old lightsaber, and then that's it? That's all we get. The groundwork was all there for a very exciting and captivating Star Wars trilogy, one that built on the fundamentals of the original trilogy, but grew into its own and wasn't afraid to take risks. And, they took risks all right. I want to state before I continue that Rian Johnson made a really visually beautiful film with The Last Jedi. The scenes on Ahch-To, the death of Snoke, and the subsequent battle in the throne room, the final conflict on Crate, all these scenes are really incredible to look at, but man, to me, this movie just does not hold up in a lot of ways. The plot seems disjointed, and a lot of the new characters felt like they were placeholders that were never meant to be something better. Like they were just one-offs and they were never intended to meet a full potential. I don't think the blame for this movie's shortcomings can really be fully put on one single person. I think the fact that the movies were sort of passed to and from without any real plan of how it was supposed to go or what was supposed to happen is really to blame here. At the end of the day, Rian Johnson's a director. He was offered to make his own Star Wars movie, which any director would accept. Could he have consulted more people? Or taken to heart what people were telling him about the story? Some of those people being Star Wars veterans like Mark Hamill? Sure. Absolutely. And I'm sure he would have made something that more traditional Star Wars fans would have been happy with if he did. But he made his Star Wars movie, and at the end of the day, there's nothing really we can do about that. Many people, including Mark Hamill, had an issue with the way he portrayed Luke in this film. Many people say that Luke would never give in to his anger the way he did with the young Ben, and in turn he would never let that scare him away into a life of seclusion somewhere else. I personally was actually kind of okay with this Luke. Luke always flirted with the dark side, but was always strong enough to overcome it. That's something that made him Luke. However, there were always instances where Luke did fall victim to the influence of the dark side. In Jabba's palace, he uses a force choke on a Gamorrean guard. At the end of Episode 6, he lets his anger overcome him and he strikes down Darth Vader. However, he stops himself from killing him. And this is after Luke had already said that he knew his father had good in him. So that sense was always there. I don't find it that hard to believe that an aging Luke would see this growing threat in this Padawan, and that influence of the dark side would creep into his mind, and the first thing he would think of is that he has to end it. And let's not forget, when we get the final true story from Luke of what happened, he stopped himself. And he felt great shame about the fact that he even considered killing Ben. This led to the destruction of his Jedi Academy, and of course, he felt so shameful, he felt disgraced, and so he disappeared. And for those of you who say it's out of character, well, even Yoda, who at one time was one of the most hopeful examples of a Jedi, he went into exile after Order 66, albeit for different reasons, but still, nevertheless, he did it. In many ways, Luke is the Yoda of this film. He's aged, imperfect, reluctant, but willing to finally step up in order to help right the wrongs that were caused at one time by his ignorance. Also worth mentioning, the scene where Yoda appears to Luke and talks to him much in the way that Obi-Wan once appeared to Yoda to talk to him about Luke, I thought that was a nice touch. For me, a big issue that The Last Jedi created is that it didn't leave us with a solid ending to build on. There's that vague sense of hope leading into the next movie, I suppose, but somehow there's going to be another film. And somehow we have to go somewhere with that, right?
Somehow Palpatine returned.
Somehow Palpatine is back. The Rise of Skywalker is in many ways a cool movie. Like The Last Jedi, I think that visually is very captivating. You have the dark, almost gothic feel of Exegol, the lively festival on Pisana, and as dumb as it is conceptually, the Final Order and the sky battle that comes out of it all looked really badass. And while Star Wars has always based its feel on the overall look of everything, at the end of the day, that alone isn't what makes Star Wars special. What makes Star Wars special is the characters, the stories, the lore, the fact that it's thoughtful and feels like it could be a real world, even with all the wizards and monsters. The Rise of Skywalker, for me, really just felt like J.J. Abrams trying to recover what was left of his film after Rian Johnson made The Last Jedi. Snoke was killed? Well, let's go to old trusty Palpatine. But where is the thoughtfulness? Star Wars is a universe full of possible explanations of how Palpatine could come back. Is he a clone? Did he somehow use the Force to protect himself, much like Leia did in The Last Jedi? How did I gloss over that? Did he manage to transfer his energy temporarily through the Force? Who knows? I'll tell you somebody who will never know. Us, the audience. Instead, we just get somehow. And to me, the film just sort of builds on that lackluster foundation. I personally really liked the fact that they explored new ideas with the Force. Ideas like Rey and Ben sharing some sort of bond through the Force where they can transport items through two physical planes. That was pretty cool. I also found Rey's ability to use the Force for healing very interesting, especially since now that's been built up a little more with Grogu in The Mandalorian. The film also uses some of those classic Disney-era pull-at-your-heartstring moments, like Ben speaking to an apparition of Han Solo, or Luke appearing to Rey as a Force ghost, and finally lifting his X-Wing from the water in order to help her, or them tricking us into thinking Chewbacca has died, only to reveal he was actually somehow okay. These moments were impactful, yes, but unfortunately, they were just sort of lost in the story. It was just suffering too much from the way the whole trilogy had been fragmented. Nothing felt like it really mattered. I didn't really care if Ben ended up good or evil, although that scene where he comes to rescue Rey on Exegol did look pretty cool in theaters. Even the scene of Rey absolutely eviscerating Palpatine, using the power of all the Jedi who came before her, who are reaching out through the Force, could have been done much better. We could have seen those Jedi. We could have had them physically there in Rey's point of view, helping her, holding her hands, pushing her forward, and really giving her the power to do this thing. We could have had our first live-action depiction of Ahsoka. We could have had our only live-action depiction of Kanan Jarrus. We could have seen Mace Windu, Anakin, Obi-Wan, Yoda, Aayla Secura, fucking Qui-Gon Jinn. There were so many iconic Jedi who we could have seen there working together to finally destroy this evil that had plagued them in all their corruptible mortal states. But we didn't get it, and that was very disappointing for me. It's a cool scene, still, but it just felt like a missed opportunity. I also felt this way with the ending where Rey buries Anakin's lightsaber, finally putting it to rest. And a woman asks her who she is, and she says, Rey. And the woman asks her, Rey what? And she looks over, and there you see Luke and Leia standing there, smiling at her, almost as to say, you're a Skywalker now. But where's Ben? Where's Anakin? Where are these other important Skywalkers? I don't know. To me, that really felt like a missed opportunity to bring the prequels, the sequels, and the original trilogy all into one conclusive ending. So all in all, how do we feel? Well, these movies weren't so bad that they were unwatchable, not for me at least. There were things to enjoy, bits of good, bits of bad, but honestly, Babu Frick held up the whole trilogy. No, that's just a joke, I'm kidding. But I do love Babu Frick. All in all, they weren't horrible, but to me, they didn't really hit the mark of what a Star Wars trilogy should feel like. And for a while, it even made me feel a little blasé about watching new Star Wars content. I enjoyed Solo, and I really enjoyed Rogue One, so I knew it was possible for good Star Wars to still be made, but I wasn't sure it would be. But then, Mr. Dave Filoni. That's right. Clone Wars and Rebels Dave Filoni. He said, nah, f*** that. I'm gonna make some good shit. And he gave us... Yes, The Mandalorian. Some people had differing opinions on this series, but holy shit, I loved it. Watching, or in some cases, rewatching Filoni's Star Wars content made me really love Star Wars again. His characters and stories actually interested me, and I cared about whether they succeeded or failed in their respective missions. And Luke showing up in The Mandalorian was an absolutely scream-worthy moment for me. I know some people didn't like that because they thought The Mandalorian was good as a Skywalker-free project, but I thought it was done tastefully. Now that Dave Filoni is the creative director at Lucasfilm, I'm really hoping we're going to continue to get good Star Wars content from here on out. Filoni really seems to understand what makes Star Wars special, as he is a fan himself, and not to mention the fact that he is a protege, essentially, of George Lucas. I'm excited to see what Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau and the other creators of the new Star Wars canon are going to do with the universe. And while I don't think that the sequel trilogy should be retconned, as many Star Wars fans do, I do choose to be more excited about new things coming out rather than dwell on the problems I had with the sequel trilogy. So far, I'm really liking the Book of Boba Fett, and I'm really excited to see the Ahsoka and Obi-Wan series when those come out. I just hope we can learn from the sequel trilogy. They have to think of how these projects are going to affect the world and the lore of Star Wars, instead of just trying to take a lot of cool ideas and put them together, because that just creates something like the sequel trilogy where you have cool ideas, but it's all just disjointed and it doesn't feel cohesive. It's like they just said, this is cool, this is cool, this is cool, now let's put it together and just see how it plays out. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. I feel like now it's been long enough to look back on the sequel trilogy and critique them without the new Star Wars excitement. What did you think about these movies? Did you love them? Did you hate them? Why or why not? If you like this video, why not give it a like? Why not subscribe? Who knows? Maybe I'll make more videos like this. I don't know. But until next time, thank you for watching. I truly appreciate it, and I hope you have a lovely day.